So approach the podium. If you're here for public comment, press *9 or hit the raise the hand button. We don't have anyone here present. Is there anyone online?
There is not.
Very good. We'll move on to unfinished business. Excuse me, I'm not seeing any unfinished business this month, so we will move on to F, hearings, and we'll go right into F1, 526 5th Street. So whenever you're ready, we'll have the staff report, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This two-story Italianate home was present in city directories in 1894 and could be older. The occupant of 34 5th Street at that time was painter William H. Boylan, who lived there until 1914, in which year his wife Mary is listed also. Features tall, narrow 1/1 windows arranged symmetrically, flatboard trim in the front gable, and a wraparound front porch with half columns that was added during the period of significance. Most of the windows were previously replaced. Two street-facing upper sashes that you can see down here on the porch have borders with colorful squares, but it's not known if these sashes are original to the house. The upper sashes are taller than the lower sashes, which makes them look a little bit suspect. In 2025, the HCC officers allowed staff to approve changes to window openings on the non-historic rear addition of the house, which I'll show you in just a sec. These changes are reflected on the new elevation drawings in the attachments. So they haven't been changed yet, but they have been approved. And the work that is before you in this application is to add a Bilco door and a stairwell on the south side of the rear addition and a covered deck off the back of the addition. All right, walking around the house. Very lovely wraparound front porch. There used to be a door here, but it was replaced, when? I think in the 90s, 96, with a window. And the addition on the house is almost as big as the house was originally. You can see pretty much, maybe we'll see it better in a minute, but there's a place you can see on the drawings for sure, where you can just draw a line down and everything behind it is this new two-story addition. It's large. It has all this little dormer popped out on either side. The other side is very similar. And the Bilco door location would be here. There's a well without a window. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, walking around now, we're going into the backyard. There's a patio in the back, and there are patio doors. A little entry porch that's recessed here. But again, all of this in the back here is a very large addition. Garage is not from the period of significance. Here's a better view of that back door and the slider. You'll notice that these windows will be changed quite a lot when you see the proposed drawings in a second. Now we've walked around and we're in front of the garage, walking down the driveway. This is the other side of the house. And I'm happy to report that, in my opinion, all of the changes that are proposed are very favorable and very sympathetic to the house, and getting it a little closer to what maybe should have happened the first time around when all of the windows were replaced and new openings were put in, etc. So here you can see front elevation. Nothing is really happening on the front elevation at all. You can see the new Bilco here on the side, though, which I love to call Dorothy doors. This is the south elevation. Here, there's an existing well. It's got a cover over it right now, but there's no window there. It's sort of odd, and that's where a new foundation would be built, more substantial, deeper basement depth, with stairs going down into the basement. And the other piece of work is the new covered lanai that would come off the back. There's a slider in the back right now, and I'll show you how that would be modified. It is on a deck. The deck's supported on footings there. It's pretty straightforward, just fairly plain posts with A little bit of trim on the top and the bottom, asphalt shingles. Nice place to hang out in the shade. Okay, on the left, we have the rear elevation, the way it looks now. And on the right, these are the window changes that have been changed. We've got 2 new windows on the upper story replacing this bank of windows. This slider comes out and a larger slider goes in. The other 2 windows and door remain. You can also see the Bilco here. The Bilco's kind of interesting. There's an 18-inch extender before you get to the doors, the slanted part where the doors are that come up. That's just to give them a little more room, which you'll see in a moment on another drawing. And now we're coming back around to the other side. We can see the other side of the lanai. Again, super straightforward. The grade is a little bit wonky in the back. Let's see. So the bottom step is here, but it looks like the grade over here is, a 1.5 foot higher. But maybe we can look at the photographs in a second when they come back around and confirm that. These window changes, I just want to point out to you, a window is completely going away here, but again, everything from here back is new work. You can see where the new basement foundation is. All of this, in fact, it may be larger than the original house. Looks pretty big here. So they're taking out a window here, taking out a couple windows here, moving one over to here, but there are no changes on the historic part of the house. All right, foundation plan, here's that existing little well, and here it is with the steps going down into the basement. Ground floor, lanai coming off the back. It's set in, looks like, I can't read that number. I think it's about 5.5 feet. Just making it only nominally, if at all, visible from the street or sidewalk. Here's a section showing the new stairs. This is a good illustration. It's got the little extender going out that's 18 inches, and then the doors, and then the stairs going down. A few more photographs that came in with the application. Here's that mysterious window well. I guess someone changed their mind about having a window there. All right. Let me look at my notes before I go through the guidelines. That Bilco hatch, the doors are polyethylene. I guess the Bilco drawings didn't make it into the slideshow, but you have them in your packet. The door dimensions are 56 inches wide by 73 inches deep and 19.5 inches tall. And that foundation that you saw for the Bilco right here is about 6 feet by 8 feet. The deck for the lanai is 222 square feet. It's 18.5 by 12 feet. It's less than 30 inches from the ground, so it doesn't have a railing or stairs shown. And, all right, really, I think that all of this work is compatible with the guidelines and standards that I'm about to read to you. From the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, Standard 2 says the historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property will be avoided. Number 9 says new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Number 10 says new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. From the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for rehabilitation for building sites, recommended to design a new exterior addition to a house, to a historic building or adjacent new construction which is compatible with the historic character of the site, which preserves the historic relationship between a building or buildings, landscape features, and open space. It's not recommended to introduce new landscape features, including plant material, that are visually incompatible with the site or that alters or destroys the historic site patterns or vistas. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for residential porches, it's appropriate to install a new porch and entrance on secondary elevations. This may be appropriate if it does not diminish the building's architectural character and the design and materials are compatible with the building and the site. For residential decks and porches, it's appropriate to install a deck in the rear of the property that is subordinate in proportion, install a deck that is freestanding, and install flooring made of wood or composite wood. All right, I think that's all I got. Staff does recommend approval of this application and thinks that it does meet all of the standards and guidelines, and the work is not intrusive to the house or the neighborhood, and staff appreciates the window changes, especially on the addition, because they will be a little more in keeping with the style of the house. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Now we'll move on to the review committee report. Commissioners Calderon and Kaplan were on the review committee. Will you please give us your report and recommendation?
Yeah, I thought it was I found it to be a pretty straightforward project, especially in the back. As for the Bilco, that alleyway is approximately like 30 feet. The Bilco only extends 8 feet. It would take up a little less than a third of the width of the alley between the house and the house to its right. But yeah, I found it to be pretty straightforward.
Thank you.
Yeah, going to sort of reinforce what Ben has said, the land area between this house and the neighboring house is almost all part of this property. The property line is, so it doesn't really encroach on neighboring property. This Bilco door is in the rear 30% of the house, so it's as far away from the road or the sidewalk as you could conceivably get. Echoing what Jill said, replacing the existing windows on the back, I think is going to be a great positive contribution to the house, and the lanai doesn't seem like it's going, if anything, it's going to add something. I think in terms of texture to the house, I don't think anything here detracts. I support it.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we'll move on to the applicant presentation. So is the applicant here? Is it you? Great. Will you please approach the podium? Thank you so much. Please state your name and address for the record. And you've got up to 5 minutes to speak about what you've heard and give us your presentation if you have one.
Thank you. My name's Donald Black. My residence is 1991 Main Street, Sarasota, Florida, 34236, if that's helpful.
Sure.
We really appreciate the time that the committee has taken looking at that. We have a lot of ties to Michigan. I went to school here. I was on faculty at the medical school for a while. My uncle was an architect. So we really want to come back to Ann Arbor and fix up a house in the Old West Side. So we appreciate the report. Don't have any other explanation for what we're doing other than that. But we really also, the staff has moved everything as quickly as we thought could be done.
Great. Just hold on one second. I want to see if there's any questions from the commission here.
One, and just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
the contractor on site had said that the Bilco door would be made of metal, but the material says it will be made out of polypropylene.
I think my understanding of it from looking at it is that the cylinder is metal.
I see.
But then the doors
Door
are
caps are-
polypropylene.
Got it.
They
Okay.
also come in metal. We haven't purchased one yet, so I don't know what it'll end up being, but that's my understanding.
Okay.
So. Anything
Okay.
else?
Any other questions? I had a question. On the, sorry, let me get to my notes here. On the, let's see, it was probably on the floor plan drawings, on the second floor plan. I just had a question about one of the notes. It was curious, and I just would like some further explanation.
If I can.
Yes, please. So towards the historic, on the east side of the house, the front of the house.
Right.
There are, not new main floor, go to the next one. So there were two windows where's the second floor?
It's not in the slideshow, but
Okay.
I know what you're going to say.
I think
Yeah,
I can remember.
there's two existing windows. I believe they're in bathrooms now where you're calling out insulate and drywall the interior of the
Yes.
window. So I'm just curious about that. What do you think it's going to look like from the outside, which is what we're really concerned about? And, what is tell me a little more about what that plan
Sure.
is.
Trying to put, essentially be 3 bathrooms in the upstairs where, even though it's a pretty large upstairs, because of where the windows are located, it would have 2 windows in each bathroom. And so that's just too much to fit everything else in, but obviously we need to keep the windows on the outside. The builder who's working on this lives in a farmhouse in Pinckney and is familiar with where he has his house. He has a drywall behind it, and then it's painted in the back. So it looks that it's from the outside as though it's a normal window, but just dark.
Yeah.
And then, but then from the inside, it's drywalled across and flush.
So it's painted like a dark color or something?
Yeah.
So okay, all right. And are those windows, those must be replacement windows? Am I right, or are those historic windows?
Yeah, I believe all the
They were
windows on the
all-
house,
Right.
with the possible
The
exception of the
possible exception, the
front.
2 front
if you wanna-
sashes, okay.
Yeah.
The
but
just
they're
wanna
original
clarify that.
openings. Yeah.
We've already had a restorer that was recommended by the commission, or Michael Allen, come out. He's looked at the windows and they're fixing those windows. He doesn't think those 2 particular windows are 1883 windows, which is when the newspaper that was on the walls came off. So that's when we think the house was actually built. We've been working with the Bentley to try to see if they could be preserved and so forth. But anyway, that was the 1883 house. And then in 1914, as you mentioned, that they built the stone wall around it. Apparently the German owner did a lot of the stone walls in the area at that time. And that's when they may have put in those windows.
Okay.
There's clearly also been other work done that maybe wasn't on the list that we're finding now as we've kind of gone into the building. But everything that's, all the old windows, obviously we're just getting preserved. But some of the others are metal framed and or single pane or vinyl clad, sorry. So,
Okay, great.
sorry, I'm not an architect or a builder, so I have no idea.
That's okay. You're here as the applicant, so you're answering the questions. Very good. Any other questions for Donald? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We will now move on to the public hearing for this item. So the public hearing's open for 526 Fifth Street. I don't see anyone approaching the podium here. Do we have anyone calling in?
We do not.
Very good. So now we can close the public hearing for this application, and I will ask if there is a commissioner who would like to make a motion on this
Happy to
item.
do so.
Oh, thank you.
I move the
Commissioner
commission
Smith.
approve the application at 526 Fifth Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to construct a basement stairwell with Bilco doors and a covered deck as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding neighborhood, and meets the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, particularly standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for building site, district, or neighborhood setting, and entrances and porches. Further, it also meets the Ann Arbor Historic District guidelines for residential doors and residential landscape features.
Second.
Great, that was motion by Commissioner Smith and seconded by Commissioner Fortner. Do we have any discussion on the motion? No one wants to say the word lanai? I'll just Okay,
Not in a million years.
right, okay. I suppose there's no discussion because it is a sort of straightforward application. The application itself was extremely thorough, which is always helpful, so we knew exactly what was going on here. And it seems like we all believe that it meets the standards. So let's just go to a vote then. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, say no. The motion carries. I said yes, I think, for the record. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note, you must receive all required permits from the city before beginning your project, and the work in the permits must match what was approved by the Historic District Commission. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Well, that's it for hearings today. So we can just move right into new business, which we do have some new business to discuss, business, excuse me. G1, design guidelines, assignment and review.
All right, I will share my screen. One moment, please. We are talking about Chapter 5, Commercial, Design Guidelines for Historic Commercial Properties. And I think we have some comments in here. I'll scroll through. We have some questions, and then if anyone has anything else, please feel free to stop me. Just starting out, both Jill and Commissioner Rockland had questions about definitions. I did check cornices. They are in the glossary in the appendix that we'll get to, but we should probably in general check against all of the terms to make sure that everything that needs to be defined is defined. So we'll look at everything else as we kind of go through, but cornices are there.
I think to me, it just seemed a little, I was surprised that it was so specific. I mean, obviously, we want to get to the specific things, but when I think of commercial properties, it's like, I'm thinking of the entire, usually facade of the building that contains probably windows, maybe a cornice, maybe other brackets, details, and then the storefront as like a,
Yeah.
so I don't know if it's just like the window stuff was already discussed, so it's not repeated. I would say in general, this chapter was like really clear, like way more clear than the other ones, but that was like the one thing that like the big picture, it didn't talk about like the facade at all.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the, like, how we usually have the drawing that has numbers 1, 2, and points out those
Sure,
parts, kind of
that
like
would've been
that.
helpful, yeah.
Because it does do it for storefronts, I think, but just for the general, yeah.
Yeah, just make that bigger for the whole building.
Yeah, yeah, especially for our downtown, the commercial buildings, I mean, a lot of times the storefront has already been changed, and the only thing that is historic is, the rest of it.
It would also be good to explain bays in a multi-part building.
Okay, yeah.
And sort of talk about proportions, because we often have to go through the whole dog and pony show when someone wants to add a floor on the top, and we can't decide how far to push it back, and then we have the same discussion that we always have every time, so we could just put it in here.
Yep,
About the set it back, the width of a bay, that sort of thing.
yeah, and I think we have had like second story work where it's sort of an obvious, like, let's say there's 3 bays in the building, kind of, 3 vertical bays also.
Yeah.
And they maybe want to do something weird that's not kind of aligning with that. I'm sure there's
Yes.
appropriate things and there's not appropriate things when adding. I didn't even think of that until you said bays just now.
Yeah, there should be something about aligning with vertical and horizontal elements of the building or something like
Yeah,
that.
right.
Yeah.
All right. don't think there was much for kind of introduction and definitions of storefronts. Jill suggests including photos. I think that generally throughout, more photos, more drawings, or better photos, better drawing.
I don't know if we have any early 19th century storefronts left. I can think of a few mid and late, but
I was wondering about that.
yeah, we should take a look. That would be a
So that would
fun
mean
Friday
that-
field trip.
Okay, I mean, the question would be, what, you said early 20th century, that would be the period of significance. Like, are there any storefronts where some part of the storefront is actually within
Yeah.
the period of significance?
Well,
Go
yes.
take a picture of it.
Yes, no, there are. I'm
There
just
are.
wondering if there are any that are early 19th century.
Early 19th century,
Yeah,
okay. I
yeah.
see.
There are certainly 1850s to 1900.
Good, okay, good.
A couple of intact ones and a couple of pieces, you know?
Mhm.
But I don't know if, I don't think we have anything that looks like that top illustration, but we should check it out.
But is that just a curiosity? I mean, I do think it's helpful to see the evolution of
Yeah,
storefronts here to kind of
Yeah.
help you think about dating your storefront if you're not sure.
yep, that's true.
All right, and then we have storefront elements.
So I have a question about this one. So does our commission, I mean, when it comes to the placement of signage, that's for Jill as well as Mariana, is it kind of the requirement first where like you want to put the sign in the actual like the natural sign band area of a storefront?
If there is one, yes, that's
Okay.
where it goes.
So then, in looking at this diagram, or, so is the cornice, is the storefront meant to be cornice? The cornice area, like, I'm sorry, the sign band, is that meant to be number 4, or?
So this illustration doesn't have that sign band, and I think that sign band has evolved from number 9, the, what do we call it? The transom.
Okay.
Which on most of our downtown buildings has been filled in. And now it's
Gotcha.
now it's where you put the sign.
Gotcha. Okay.
There are a few, those cool glass block, refracting block
Like the
transoms that
prism.
still exist, but,
Yeah.
and there are also a few where, if they do have these elements, they have to get a little crazy to try to put a sign on the building.
Yeah, I was going to ask,
I
like,
can think of one on South State Street where
right,
they couldn't have a flat sign, there was just no place to put it, so, an arm comes out and then ties back down in, and it's a strange triangular sign, and,
so it ends up being like a blade sign in these types of,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
On the sign page, we should probably have an illustration of proper places to put a sign.
Right.
Yeah, we can note that farther down.
Yeah.
Because in this one, I guess it would be like the column, and I would be looking for like a blade sign or something. I don't know, like,
Yeah. Like the little pedestrian scale sign would be easy
yeah,
off one of the columns or
yeah,
on the inner, the outer edges. But yeah, for this, if they really wanted a flat sign on this, we'd have to look above the cornice and see what's going on up there. And if there's windows in the way, it just might not happen.
right.
But there might be a big enough space, but, yeah, all building specific.
Gotcha.
See, I think you can strike my comment there. I was under the impression that there was more of the historic glass tile in the transom.
Like in the arcade.
Like on Main Street, there's a few storefronts that have the glass tile in the transom, up in the transom. But I thought it was more prevalent.
I think that's worth mentioning in the appropriate and not appropriate.
Okay.
Appropriate is keeping it,
Yes.
or replacing it where it used to be.
Okay.
Not appropriate is boarding over it or destroying it while you're doing work on your storefront if it's already covered over, that sort of thing.
So like covering distinctive character-defining features of the store.
It's probably already covered by something, but I
Right.
don't know. Transoms are kind of special, so it might be kind of good to point them out.
For sure.
All right. I just had a question if we wanted to include something specific about opacity. I know that there's some zoning, like, I'm not sure exactly what it is. So I guess that my question is, do we want to say something, is it worth saying something specific in either appropriate or not appropriate for preferences for opacity, or just go with what the zoning regulations are?
I don't think it would hurt to point out that we want clear glass. I also can't think of anyone who's ever proposed something different,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it seems like it run counter to their own commercial interests.
Well, but we've had instances, I should say, where like maybe like it's not actually, they're in a commercial space, but it's software developers or something, and they maybe don't want.
maybe the third from the bottom under not appropriate says using reflective glass, or fourth from the bottom. That makes it difficult for pedestrians to see into the storefront. Maybe that could just say using non-clear or reflective glass.
I mean, my preference is, if I'm using this, I want to see it linked to the zoning ordinance. Like, we should be putting stuff in here that's reflecting the language of our ordinance as much as possible, so that there's less going back and forth between this and the zoning, like.
Unless we want clear glass and it doesn't say clear glass. So.
Right.
That's-
Well, I would say in that case, then, let's have the ordinance say clear glass.
Well, but this is historic district versus zoning.
Form-based historic districts.
In what?
You can do form-based code for historic districts.
Chip, that's a good point, that before this whole thing gets finalized, we need to
Yes.
compare it
the
to zoning
matrix of
and sign
comparison.
code and building
Right.
heights and everything
I mean,
else. So-
ultimately, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about this from a usability standpoint, which is, if I have to page through a document and I have to keep going back to different sections of the zoning code, I'm much more likely to design something that has a conflict in there. And, the Ann Arbor cycle of conflicts that never ends and
Yeah.
really makes people crazy. Like, let's try to figure out how to minimize that as much as possible. But I also think about what we're doing here, like, should be easily, like, if the city were to say, you know what, we want to codify our historic districts with form-based codes, that we should be able to just lift a lot of this stuff and put it right into a form-based code.
Can you define that term for me, please?
Form-based code?
Yes, please.
So it is, right now, we talk about building height, placement, and relationship to the street, but that's about it. Like, in a form-based code, we can say, like, your building needs to have these elements in these areas. Like, be very prescriptive about it, which I think the more we are able to talk in terms of what buildings look like and how they relate to the buildings about it, the less controversy there is about building evolution in Ann Arbor. So it's a little bit more complicated, but it's a little bit easier to design to.
It would certainly be a lovely idea to have zoning be consistent with what the HDC does.
Right.
In its formed-basedness. I mean, there are always going to be some conflicts, I think. I've never seen any zoning code that's completely captures HDC design guidelines but we could do better, for sure.
I mean, I think the other thing is, you know, you want to make everything defensible, you know, so you need to make it as consistent with the ordinance as possible.
That hasn't really been an issue with, well, I guess the things that have been, yeah.
Yeah, I mean-
My
It's
examples
clear-
are not good ones.
It's clear
Yeah.
glass is historic,
Right.
and that's in the standards, but then the zoning says you can have any kind of glass you want, but
The zoning
these
should
standards say
except
clear.
in Designated historic district.
Sure, which it probably does somewhere in the document, yeah. Maybe not in the glass section, but.
But that's where you'd want to put it, is, you know, in, you know, for downtown stuff in the D1 section. Like, you know, ground floor needs to have, you know, clear glass.
Well,
Fair.
we'll probably have a complete zoning ordinance rewrite in a couple of years, so that's our chance.
Great.
Jill, are there examples where the historic or the original glass isn't clear? Where we'd be asking for it to be clear and it was already frosted or seeded or prism-like?
If the glass was wavy and clearly old, it would be part of the historic fabric
Okay.
of the building, so. But like downtown, virtually all of the glass has been replaced in
Yeah.
downtown, so, yeah. Although I'll be on the lookout for any that's not when we do our tour of storefronts. If any of you would like to join us, let me know. I'm thinking about it now.
Nice.
All right. Then just removing the last one in appropriate, because it's covered already by others.
Yeah.
And then adding some specifics in not appropriate for removing the, you know, recession of an arcade or storefront, and also removing any of the finishes that would be in recessed entryways.
Mariana, I'm not sure why, but like this page is a particular example.
Yeah.
It's
That's not good.
impossible to read,
And you can't move it.
and you can't move it. It gets angry when you move it because it thinks you're editing it. And the way I solved it was just I opened up the actual standards, you know, like the PDF, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, there are certain edits and stuff like that that
Just didn't, yeah.
they're impossible to read because they're like
Random
off the
pages.
page. Yeah.
That's-
Not every page is
Photographs.
like this, but
Yeah.
sometimes this happens. I don't know.
It's so weird.
I doubt it's something you could fix. I just want to let you know.
These documents are so,
Yeah.
the formatting gets so messed up. Okay. Well, yeah, thank you for letting me know. I'll let IT know and see if they know when we're sending out next month's, because,
Okay.
yeah, if you can't read them, there's no point.
It's not every page, but I think it's when you have these big, like floating text sections and they get mashed up.
Yeah.
Don't know why. Okay.
All right. Nothing proposed for commercial entries, no issues there.
I was wondering, the roll-down security grills, that looked like maybe that was added in as an afterthought or something, and I wasn't sure why that just didn't show up within appropriate and not appropriate. Just for consistency, I wanted that paragraph split in half and put inappropriate and not appropriate, or put higher up or so. I don't know why it was down there. It just seemed inconsistent, but I didn't even know that was a possibility, to be
Well, I actually
honest.
remember the original author saying, oh, I kind of added this in case you ever need it.
Oh, funny.
Because she did a lot of work in Detroit.
Yeah.
They had to review a lot of them.
Right.
And actually, a couple of them have come up since marijuana sales have been around. But no one felt strongly enough that they wanted to actually come to you guys and
Yeah, put one in.
request it. Yeah,
Haven't seen one of those yet.
yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely incorporate it. So just a few changes for commercial awnings and canopies and removing banners to the sign section. I was curious, do we have any banners in?
So banners are not legal under sign code, so I just removed them all. All
Oh,
of the
okay.
references to banners. That's why there's all these red strikeouts here.
Okay.
We don't have temporary signs, and that's effectively what banners are. And I think that there may be some historic districts where they're more common, but they're just not common here. And some people call banners the like vertical things
Oh.
on arms, which is not what this is referring to. This is referring to wide, flat banners on the front of a building. There's an
Like
illustration
fabric
somewhere.
ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Right here.
And it's just incongruent with
And we don't have any.
code. And we don't have any because they're not allowed.
Yeah, okay.
So-
So, yeah, it's not an issue we have to
I
worry
mean,
about.
occasionally somebody sticks up a coming soon, a new coffee shop.
Sure,
And no
but
one
that's
really
not
says
what
anything
this
about
is.
it.
That's
This
a
is-
temporary
right,
sign, yeah.
Right.
Grand opening, yeah.
Yeah. We just look the other way for those. And
Okay.
there wasn't much discussion of canopies in here. And we've had a couple of canopies come up, like the one on Black Pearl / Starbucks downtown. They have a new canopy. There are a few other ones downtown. None of them are historic, with one exception, but just needed some language about them.
Okay. So adding canopies, removing banners, some word changes. We'll check requirements for how high an awning or canopy should be above the sidewalk.
That one is 8 feet if you want to make a note.
Okay, so we'll just say 8 feet, no need
Yep.
to say, okay.
Yep.
All right, 8 feet.
Yeah.
And then just, updating language. And as we talked about, just making sure that this aligns with sign code. And inappropriate to have permanent freestanding signs. So we will remove references to freestanding signs.
The photo here on the left, Moda Blue, I don't even remember where that was. Looks like it might be Nichols Arcade. But that's kind of what I was talking about, Jen, with the creative brackets and supports and things like that.
Okay.
I think we should have more signs painted onto windows. All right, I think just generally word changes, and then adding some inappropriate installing junction boxes for lit signs so they are not visible from the street, and limiting electrical cable runs and wall penetrations for sign lighting. Do we want to add something about digital signs? And we did it with the Michigan Theater.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they'll come up more or not. But if we have a specific stance on digital signs,
Just make a note that we should put something in there. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I mean.
Are we
case by
generally
case.
case by case? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can say if we're generally fine, generally not fine.
Well, I would say it's generally not appropriate, right?
Right, but
we would
the
take it-
Michigan Theater seemed
Yes,
very
but
appropriate.
lots of things come to us that are in the not appropriate that we have to okay, case by case.
Yeah,
But I don't think that
I think case by case makes sense
digital
for this
electrical
one.
signs are clearly,
Does
Case
the
by-
code speak to?
yes, there is a
Okay.
lot of code on that, because I remember Jill was educating us when the Michigan Theater was putting in that sign, and it can't change more than once an hour, there's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
Can't
stuff
show a
that's-
movie on your sign.
Right.
What's that?
Can't show a movie on your sign.
Ah, okay. Because I'm just like, this is a code question, but like, who even like enforces that? Like, who's watching to see? Like,
You
oh,
are.
hey, Michigan Theater.
We are complaint.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're complaint driven.
Who's enforcing it?
If somebody's walking downtown and says, wow, they shouldn't have
It's
that
45
there.
minutes.
You know, they're showing a preview for something coming soon, then the zoning people have to follow up on that.
They're showing liquor. Okay. Okay. Just kind of curious.
All right, I will check for masonry units. I don't think that is in the appendix. So then clarifying, so interior illumination, still no. Backlit, still no. But halo lit and edge lit, maybe.
Yeah, halo lit has been fine for years. I mean, I've been approving them at the staff level for years. And edge lit are kind of new. They do look kind of plasticky, kind of modern, but I mean, if the alternative is that they just don't turn them on and they put the same channel letters up, I don't feel too strongly about them being edge lit. I think that that's okay. I had to look twice at the Chase Bank signs at the corner of Huron and Main Street, because they really looked like they were internally illuminated, but really it was just the edges that were translucent. So I think that that's going to need a little bit more
So they
discussion.
are internally illuminated, but the face of the sign is
Is
opaque.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess I have a question. I guess I don't, when it comes to internally illuminated signage, like, I don't have an issue with it. Like, I guess, kind of like in Detroit, when we're dealing with that, like, our sign guidelines when it came to, like, no to internally illuminated signs, it kind of more so referred to, like, the terrible, like, 80s and 90s, like, box sign where they're, the letters are kind of stuck on the sign.
Yeah.
And signage today, like internally illuminated signs, especially in a commercial setting, they're like light years beyond the old school internally illuminated, like the box, terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just something to think about that I think, when you go downtown in Ann Arbor, there's so much signage. It's so, like, kind of varied, and it's not like it's like all externally illuminated signs, all wood, all whatever. It's just, there's such a variety that,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just something to think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a little concerned about the super cheap channel letter
Yeah,
internal illumination, which is sort of the replacement for the bad box signs.
Right.
Now we've got bad channel letter signs, but there have also been some channel letter signs that are pretty cool looking.
right.
So I think that the blanket statement was to just get rid of all of that and not
Gotcha.
have to worry about it, but we could certainly open it up a little bit and say, if you want to be considered for internal illumination, you have to go to the commission.
Right. And I guess, like, just a general sense, so these guidelines, essentially, are they like, hey, if you meet the guidelines, your project is staff approved, if not, it comes to the commission, and the commission could still decide to approve something even if it doesn't meet the guidelines? Or is it like, literally, if it doesn't meet the guidelines, we won't approve it? What's
Well, if it doesn't, if I think something doesn't meet the guidelines, or Mariana thinks it doesn't meet the guidelines, we're not going to staff approve it, obviously. And
Right.
at that point, they can come to you guys and
Right.
say, hey, we think it meets your guidelines, and here's why. And then
Right.
you all can decide, yeah, that sounds reasonable, or no, clearly that's not what we were intending here.
Right. But is it, I guess, and this goes to just, fellow commissioners, if something doesn't meet a guideline, because to me, a guideline is like, okay. I guess it's different from the Secretary of the Interior guidelines, which you gotta meet.
Guideline is a guideline. It's not a rule.
Yes.
It's not code.
Right.
And that's why occasionally you all say, yeah, it doesn't meet that guideline, but it meets the intent of the ordinance.
Yep,
So we think it's okay.
right. It meets the
And that
standards,
can,
and, yeah.
That can be applied to anything that's
Right.
in the design guidelines.
Right. So I guess so theoretically, if this language still stays the same regarding internally illuminated signage, I mean, we could still get a sign that comes to us that we, as a group, think,
Yes.
okay, it
Yeah.
doesn't meet the guidelines, but we think
Yep.
it meets the standards, and
Yep.
we're going to
And
approve
that
it.
has happened. That
Okay.
happens once every couple of years. Somebody has a fancy, it's always a corporate box that they want to use. But a couple of them have been found to be perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
You know, like, oh, it's opaque, it's backlit, but then there's this translucent thing in the middle that's their logo and some words, and it looks pretty tasteful. And they showed us one that was on this other building in, Chicago or Birmingham or whatever, and it looks great. And if it's going to be just like that, no problem, it meets the intent of the design guidelines.
Gotcha.
But we would also be opening the door to having to say no to the 30-foot-long channel letter sign
Right.
for the new juice place or the new
Yeah.
bubble tea that they want to put all the way across the front of the building.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's
good point.
going
Like, it could really come,
backwards in
yeah,
time.
good point, yeah. Guidelines do help kind of cut through a lot of that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
gotcha.
people can propose whatever they want.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that, and it's true that the people that want to put up the cheap channel letter signs that are fast, that they can put up right away, they don't want to come to the HDC. So they're just going to make a different plan. It's the people that are really set on, this is my image and this is what I want my building to look like, and it's fine to go to the HDC then and ask them. And those are usually people that get it approved.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about neon?
Yeah, so neon is now staff approvable. We don't address it anywhere in the design guidelines, really. And we've had some kind of unique, neon costs a little more, so you usually have a better designer involved and, not better, but, more creative often. And so I have staff approved a few neon signs in the recent past. One is coming in, I've been working with an applicant, where they want to use metal channel letters with neon inside the letters, but with no face. And I think it's intended to sort of bounce the neon off of the metal letters and make it glow a little more, which sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I am planning to staff approve that. But do you guys have any thoughts on neon? We should put something in here that we think neon is okay or not okay, or case by case. I mean, generally, I think it's great. I think it's cool and lively and interesting to look at.
Do you have to top shield neon? Because it's like,
You don't for the sign code.
Interesting,
No.
okay.
Yeah, the sign code makes concessions for things like
for
that.
lighting, but it's
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
That was an aside. I don't know. Yeah, what would you think we would say about it?
I mean, I would say that it's generally acceptable to have, like to say neon is an appropriate type of sign.
Do we say that for do we have a bullet point where we say what types of lit illuminated signs are appropriate? Because it would be weird to just call out neon, but if we're calling it out along with the other types of appropriate illuminated signs, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that one, Mariana could just say installing signage that is lit externally by fixtures above the sign or using neon.
Yeah, it probably goes in
You have
there.
to call out neon because otherwise it could be conflated with internally lit signs, which we're saying no to. And
Yeah.
So you kind of have to make that distinction.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that just took care of it. Thank you.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. I feel like that is a bullet point about externally lit signs, but I think we probably should have another bullet point that's about internally. It seems like a different thing to me. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not going to use neon to externally light the sign, right? That's more of a
It is.
internal illumination or self-illumination.
We can think about it.
Yeah.
Because we'll have to mess around with how we want the wording for internal illumination, if we're okay with, I think it seems like we're generally okay with edge lit or halo lit, so I think we'll just have to play around with how to make clear what kind of internal illumination is okay
Yeah.
and what kind isn't.
Thank you for that.
And then I just had a question about the word fluorescent. I think that we had a discussion about it when we were talking about the Michigan Theater.
Yeah.
I can go back and look at that if no one remembers that. I think we didn't like the word fluorescent. Is that?
I didn't know what it meant, and Jill was like, it means neon colors, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, I just didn't know that fluorescent, it just seems obvious now, but yeah, I was confused, like, with me, fluorescent, and we're talking about lighting, I'm just thinking about like fluorescent lighting, like tubes, you know,
Yeah.
not colors.
Fluorescent.
But then you say neon, and neon is also lighting.
Okay.
And it just seemed weird that we were calling that out as like that's inappropriate.
I think it actually at one point said fluorescent or reflective finishes. Could
I
say
think
use
that also
different
said, the
colors.
next one says reflective, installing
okay.
signs that use highly reflective materials
go.
that are difficult to read.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
I mean, a sign guy is going to read fluorescent differently than a lighting guy.
yep.
So I think it's okay unless someone
If
takes
that's your
offense.
color, if you have a fluorescent color in your logo, I mean, I just would be I'm just surprised that we are saying that's not appropriate with all the other stuff that
Yeah,
you can do.
well, I mean, is it okay to take the whole sign band above a storefront, paint it neon orange, fluorescent orange, and then have fluorescent yellow letters on it and fluorescent pink accents? That has happened. That has happened.
Yeah, I
And
don't
maybe
know.
it does because that's the business that's going to not stick around very long. But maybe maybe it's lively and wonderful and draws attention to itself.
Is it weird that we regulate colors for signs and not for buildings?
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because it's like, hey, McDonald's, your golden arches are too gold.
Nah, that wouldn't be fluorescent.
Yeah.
You can just take it out if you guys think it's overly restrictive. That's a good point, though, about buildings versus signs.
Yeah, I mean, I would be okay removing it.
Removing fluorescent removing any of this using more than 3 or 4 colors?
I'm in favor of any 3 or 4 colors.
Of keeping or deleting?
Deleting.
Just get rid of that whole bullet point.
Installing signs that are overly complex. Gosh, I don't know, yeah. That's real gray area, obviously, right? But there's a lot of judgment involved
Yeah.
in those words. So
so-
it's hard to,
I don't think we should leave that in there. I
Yeah.
think we're not allowed to regulate the content of a sign.
okay,
We can regulate the size and the placement.
Okay.
But I think we should just get rid of that whole bullet point.
that feels right.
Yeah. And maybe the next one too. About highly reflective materials that are difficult to read.
Well, I mean, we don't want highly reflective materials, do we? Or do we not care? I mean, it does seem counterintuitive to install a sign for your business that's difficult to read.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think maybe leaving in just
A little condescending, yeah.
highly reflective materials and getting rid of that are difficult to read.
Yeah.
Because you don't want somebody that puts up a mirror with letters on it for their cool sign, because that's not good for cars going by and light bouncing off of it. That's a little different than content.
Yeah,
Yeah, material we can
material.
have
Yeah.
an opinion about.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. Anything else for signs?
Not appropriate installing several signs to advertise a single business. I feel like I see that on every storefront. So is that actually something we care about?
Probably not.
Yeah, it's like if you have a corner, if you have a corner lot, you're going to have several signs on the right side and the left side.
Yeah.
It's probably covered by
It's
the
covered in the
amount of
sign code,
signage that
right?
you're allowed in code too, yeah.
Yeah, that could probably just go away.
I mean, if we want to minimize it, we'd have to be a lot more specific than that. And I don't know, do we want to minimize, like, does the sign code give you too much signage for your historic storefront? Or it hasn't seemed like it's been a problem.
I don't think it's been a problem.
Yeah, okay.
But then, does that change feelings about providing, it's appropriate to provide a consolidated directory listing sign for all of the offices in a building to reduce the total number of signs on the building?
I think that's still okay. That was put in there specifically for the building on East Liberty where the Antelope Antiques was downstairs. There's a sushi place upstairs now.
Uh-huh.
Used to be that Chinese place.
That makes
They have multiple
businesses in one building.
inside.
Right.
And that way, not everybody is trying to put a sign up, which I think is good to
Yeah.
put them all in one. Or the Carytown Merchant sign that you see here that is not in a historic district. But that's the idea.
Feels historic.
Yeah.
All right. Exterior materials, metal. I think it's because we do have exterior materials, wood and siding, and then masonry. That's included in residential. And so I guess that's a question of do we, and I had this question also for mechanical, which is after this, which is do we want them to be separate in commercial and residential, or should we just have all of these included in chapter 3, like all historic properties?
It's a good question. We need to reference it at least, because it's just weird that we're just mentioning metal here and not saying anything about wood, stone, brick, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, it would be weird, it'd be, you don't want to like duplicate it. That would be hard to maintain and.
But you don't want them to miss it and say, well, it's not in the commercial section. so.
Exactly.
Maybe we consolidate exterior materials and then at the beginning of the residential chapter and the commercial chapter, say, see also, this chapter for exterior materials and this chapter for windows. I don't know. Or we just make it redundant.
Yeah, is there?
Just put a
Whatever you
reference
get.
in here before you get to the metal part, saying for other exterior materials that are also used in homes, see the chapter on residential.
Yeah. If this is meant to be mainly digital product, maybe it doesn't matter if we're
Yeah, then you just
redundant.
duplicate it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and there's probably things throughout that can be, sections throughout that can be duplicated in both the residential and commercial and all historic structures.
I mean, this is like a real deep dive on metal, and I don't know if we have that really for the other materials. We have like siding or something, but we don't say like wood, I don't think, in the residential, right? We don't call it out like
Somewhere
this,
we
is
I
it?
think we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I think we do with masonry too, because there's the like only wash at this pressure if
Yeah,
you're blasting,
right.
like there's
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that should definitely be in the commercial section.
Yeah.
Don't paint your masonry, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be in both, and so it's just kind of a formatting thing, right? Whatever
Yeah, it's
ends up
just,
making sense.
We'll just make sure that so I guess over explaining is better, and we can add the same sections again. Because, and then that was my question with mechanical equipment. So we'll keep mechanical in both. And then building equipment as section title?
Well, we're calling this mechanical equipment, but if you read through it, it's mechanical, electrical, plumbing, media. It's really like anything that's added, any equipment. It's not correct to call it mechanical equipment if we're gonna add the other stuff. And someone might see mechanical equipment, but they're dealing with a solar inverter, and they know that that's not mechanical, so they're not gonna read the section or something. So I think we need to broaden the category.
Do you have a preference for building equipment versus mechanical, electrical, plumbing? I think,
This wasn't intended to be plumbing, but it references pipes because people run cables and things through pipes sometimes on the exteriors of buildings. So we just need to clarify, maybe add plumbing.
Yeah, you could, I would be fine with, well, yeah, then there's like fire protection equipment or something which isn't mechanical, electrical, or plumbing.
right,
So like, there's a whole long, acronym.
any possible equipment.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
you could say like, for example, building equipment, for example, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. And then they
That's the
should
last
not
page.
introduce massing or noise that are incompatible with the character of the historic district.
Oh, massing. I just
Where
thought,
are you?
that's not the right word.
This sentence right here.
Oh.
They should not introduce massing or noise that is incompatible with,
So noise?
elements or something. They should not introduce.
The incorrect.
Well, it's noise too, I mean,
Yeah, noise I was like surprised by because I didn't
Yeah.
know that we could
regulate that.
regulate noise.
Yeah, I don't think we want to be in that business.
No.
Yeah, so get rid of noise, and
Yeah,
I would change massing to elements or something like that.
yeah,
Okay.
Thingies. Something technical, yeah.
work.
All right, then that is the last page. Any other thoughts about commercial properties in historic districts?
Just, I love this picture of, it's a beautiful building, but then
Oh, it's so whimsical. Yeah, you got the Jeep with
the
like,
Jeep with the canoe, it's so Ann Arbor. It's just a perfect photo. It's like perfectly centered on the building. I don't know, that made me laugh when I saw that one,
We may need to keep that one.
right? It's like, what? Come on.
All right, thank
Okay.
you. We're getting down to final chapters, so.
Thanks for all the work that you're doing to get through this thing.
May I move on to retreat scheduling?
Absolutely.
Okay. Retreat scheduling is a little bit difficult because I just had to kick myself out of one of the dates that I proposed because something came up. So I don't really, I think April 26th is too soon. I don't think we can put together a whole retreat in a week and a half with everything else that's going on right now.
Was May 3rd not gonna work?
May 3rd is no longer going to work
Oh,
for
bummer.
me.
That seemed like a
Yeah.
good potential
It was,
there.
it
Okay.
was. May 10th doesn't work for anybody, really, one or two people. And then the 17th, even if Mariana and I don't go to the MHPN conference, which we don't know if we're going or not, we'd still lose Ben and Steve on that day. So we can do one of two things. We can look farther out. We can look at June. We can delay the whole thing till the fall when your staff is not wrestling with awards and comprehensive plans and
I vote for
spring
that.
work.
And seriously, pushing
Yeah.
it to fall will be much easier.
Yeah, Yeah. I always start to schedule it too late, and then it creeps into
I mean,
April
is
or
there
May.
something in our bylaws that says we have to do this at a certain time?
No, it just says we need to do it. So I'm happy to try fall. And things are much
I
calmer.
mean, would it make sense to push it
For
to
us.
late fall so that we can pull together our annual report and do all that stuff? Like,
Potentially, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it just has to be done in this calendar year.
Okay.
All right, hearing no objections, we'll come back with this in the fall. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, okay, so now we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look at the March 13th, 2025 HDC meeting minutes? There was sort of a unique item in there where we had one hearing where there was a motion, but it wasn't seconded because of like I don't know, an interruption or something like that, but it was taken care of. Apparently, that was allowed. So we didn't have to postpone those poor people for another month. But that is reflected in the minutes. So let's approve them if there's no objection. I don't see one, so let's say that the minutes are approved as presented. Thank you to Courtney Manor for providing the minutes and the agenda this evening. Are there any reports from commissioners? Okay, then we'll move on to assignments. That's for the review committee on Monday, May 5th. It's a 5 PM, and the meeting is Thursday, May 8th. So who would like to volunteer?
I could do you as well.
Great, thank you, Ben. Did I hear a noise from down there?
Yeah.
Steve? Great, thank you.
You only had one this month, so it's good to...
Yeah, you guys need to come back.
Okay, thank you both for that. Okay, reports from staff. Are there any reports from staff?
My only report is that we do have a new applicant for the HCC vacancy, and I've alerted the powers that be, and if you know the mayor or city council members, tell them that we need a new member, and that there's a live applicant.
Are they not moving on it or something, or?
No, I just want it to move
Yeah.
quickly. I don't
Okay.
want any delays. Because if for any reason this person is rejected, then we need to keep looking.
Keep going, okay.
Yeah. That's it from me, though.
Okay, quick question, if...
Yeah, oh,
Oh, what do you got? Report from staff.
I wanted to clarify, we talked about the annual report last time, and there was a question about half of applications being denied. And so we did go back and look at it, and nothing was ever denied. Half of applications were postponed a couple of times, but then they were approved after postponement. So everything was approved, there was just the postponements in there.
Cool, thanks for checking that. And again, a little surprising to learn that, but it's good to know. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I had a just quick question for staff. So in the hypothetical scenario that we have historic windows that are being covered from the inside, what do the standards say about that?
The standards say it's none of our business because it's on the interior.
Yeah, okay.
I do encourage people, this is not as infrequent as you might think. I do encourage people to paint whatever's the drywall or whatever black,
Yeah.
or put something black behind the glass, so that, like the applicant today explained, it just looks like you're seeing a dark room. Or they're like, there is one on the old Fourth Ward there's a flowery curtain, and then there's the board behind it, and it doesn't look good.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's like something about that, from like a business science standpoint, that deteriorates the window faster or something, because it's not, but I guess if it's all sealed up, then maybe that's fine.
In today's case, they are actually going to replace the window before they cover it on the inside, because it's an old crummy window, and, I mean, not an old window, but a crummy replacement window
Yeah.
from 30 years ago, and so they want to replace it, so it matches all the other ones first, which,
Sounds nice.
yeah.
Okay, thank you for that question. Okay, are there, L, concerns of commissioners? Any concerns? I'm hearing
I
some.
mean, in general? like,
Yeah, just specific to the Historic District Commission?
Oh.
Commissioner Smith, no? Okay. Well, in that case, we'll move on to adjournment. I now adjourn the April 10th, 2025 Historic District Commission.